Sogat sir.
Yes, I can see you. I can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr. Ankit, I can see you. Very,
Okay,
very
sir. Thank
clearly, I
you.
can hear you also.
So video is clear?
Yeah, very clear. Video and audio both are very clear.
Okay, sir. Ma'am will be joining very soon. I will ping you once ma'am will be about to join.
Yes, please. We are ready.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Marut. Hello, Mr. Banerjee.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon.
Good. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi, Sudhir.
Hi.
Is just joining. We are keeping it on mute.
Hi,
Yeah.
Chandrajit. Hi.
Hi. Minister's office seems to have got disconnected, Marut. No, she's very much there. Sorry. Yeah.
No. Actually, they're connected, and she's just joining.
Namaskar. Namaskar, ma'am.
Correct.
Good afternoon, madam, and thank you very much for being here. Madam, with your permission, if we can begin the proceedings, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome all. It's indeed a great honor and a privilege to welcome our honorable chief guest, the Honorable Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji, at this very, very special and a significantly important session with the multinational corporations based in India. And the Honorable Minister is the chief architect, if one can say, of the new reform regime that is driving the growth momentum of the country in these very, very dynamic times. And under her direction, the country has today emerged as a stable and a very safe place for all our multinational corporations who are members, which are de-risking their supply chains. And Honorable Minister, thanks to your visionary leadership and Atmanirbhar 3.0 stimulus package, which is most relevant for these times, we greatly value and we welcome your kind leadership in really facilitating the MNCs to play a greater role in the India's economic growth and development. The government has been working rigorously to create a strong, vigorous, and a dynamic environment for the MNCs by introducing a number of reforms over the last few months. And some of the commendable initiatives in this direction include the extension of the PLI, the production-linked incentive scheme, to 10 more key sectors such as pharmaceuticals and automobiles, which will really help in attracting major share of the global manufacturing into India. And the recently announced stimulus package adds to capital expenditure on roads, defense, water supply, urban development, and domestically produced capital equipment, which are bound to attract further investments into the country. Honorable Finance Minister, Madam, our MNC members are supporting various flagship programs of the Government of India, including the Atmanirbhar Bharat, Startup India, Digital India. They are all geared up to play an even greater role in the aftermath of the outbreak of COVID-19, with India's fast improving investment climate and emerging as an alternative destination for business, de-risking and diversifying their supply chain as a part of the +1 strategy. And likewise, the government has been extremely receptive and responsive to the requests and outreach of our multinational corporations. And it has been indeed kind to our suggestions that has left no stone unturned to ensure that all businesses, including MNCs, faced least policy, regulatory, and infrastructural bottlenecks while operating on Indian soil. And entry of foreign investors has been increasingly liberalized across sectors, and business environment across states has indeed improved so much. And from CII, we remain committed to continue supporting the various initiatives of the government in making India an even more attractive destination for foreign investors. And amongst various initiatives in this directions, we have constituted today a National Council on Multinational Corporations. And this committee works dedicatedly to create awareness about reforms being introduced by the government, assesses policy and regulatory issues at the ground level, shares some of the best practices from across globe in various areas, and identifies the scope of enhancing contribution of the MNCs to the Indian economy. In one of our main initiatives recently, we from CII in association with EY have brought out a report on FDI in India, now, next, and beyond. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to indicate a couple of findings of this report. First, according to the report, India will be the next global investment hotspot, with a high proportion of MNCs placing it at the top of their investment agenda. The recent major structural reforms, proactive government processes, and a quick pickup in economic activity following the unlock measures are contributing to the global investors' interest. Second, the MNCs have pinned down market potential, skilled workforce, and political stability as the top three reasons to make India their favored destination. And third, infrastructure development, faster clearances, labor availability are found to be the top three issues that the companies want the government to focus on, followed by R&D, innovation, and tax reforms. Another important point that came out in the report is that there is a need for correction in the spread of FDIs across sectors and states, as only 11% of the total FDI has come in low skill manufacturing, and only top 10 states have accounted for a whopping 97% of the total FDI inflows. And five, India has the potential to attract an annual FDI in the range of 120 to 160 billion by 2025. And today's conference is really an initiative of the CII's Multinational Committee. Earlier during, today we were discussing with some of, between the multinational corporations, all our members, to highlight how India is fast emerging as a top investment destination, and what would make MNCs contribute more to the growth and development story of the Indian economy. Honorable Finance Minister, Madam, very quickly, just to take this opportunity, we'd like to, the team came up with a couple of points for your kind consideration. First, a differential slab-based incentives as per FDI size may be introduced. Second, making the process of approval time-bound for M&A. All notified statutory authorities like the MCA, income tax, etc., could be asked to respond within stipulated timelines, post which with their consent, no objection should be deemed to have been granted. And third, making FDI approval process time-bound. Despite a single window clearance system, FDI processes and approvals involves a bit of time, and it would help if we fixed a maximum timeline of, say, about 3 months for disposal of FDI proposals applications. I'd like to once again very warmly welcome our Honorable Finance Minister for sparing her very valuable time to interact with the members of the CII's multinational corporations, and there are more than 400 companies who are at this point in time who are participating in this particular conference, and we look eagerly looking forward to the finance minister's speech, followed by a couple of minutes of interaction. But before I really request our honorable chief guest to make her remarks, may I ask Soumitra Bhattacharya, the managing director of Bosch in India, who is chairing the CII multinational committee, to also give his remarks. Soumitra.
Thank you very much, Andrejit. Shrimati Nirmala Sitharamanji, Honorable Minister of Finance, thank you very much for your time. I will just share briefly a few points on the MNCs. First of all, of course, on behalf of the entire industry, but also the MNCs, we would like to thank you tremendously for the reforms that your government and that you have done on taxation. The corporate taxation has been a landmark. The FDI policies, what Chandrajit Banerjee already spoke about. The simplification on agriculture, a much needed and fantastic move. The seminal changes on labor law and the recently introduced PLI, which has been taken very, very well by many boards across the world. All this adding up to make the living of Atmanirbhar Bharat. I want to assure you on behalf of our committee, and today what Chandrajit Banerjee said, a packed house, that we will do a Jugalbandi with you. We have been for long years here, both in Make in India, our own company, 70 years, and many of us are nearing the 100-year like our company in 1 year's time. We believe that we have India agenda as the first, and therefore with this Jugalbandi and a listening ear that you have given us and the changes that are happening, we are converting the COVID crisis into an opportunity. The policy reforms that are being done, many seminal on ease of doing business, and already we had a discussion with Srimati Radha as well as Dr. Mahapatro, that we heard the good news of early next year that you would be using a effective unified single window clearance, which can be an amazing change and be an icing on the cake. The Ernst & Young report, which you will get, will be followed by a Deloitte report, which we are going to take out, where Deloitte partners will discuss with multiple CEOs to get a very detailed feedback on not only what is going well, but what we can do further to higher the bar. We are also, by the end of the year, going to create a compendium of all what the MNCs have brought on the table, both hard in technology, R&D, and best practices, but also soft, because there's a lot of social engagement that the MNCs do. I would like to state just a couple of points on what we could perhaps further request in the spirit of Jugalbandi that we could take forward. The first one, which many MNC boards worldwide discuss about, which your government has shown through long-term reforms, is a stable economic political environment, and which of course becomes a critical importance in terms of smooth functioning of MNCs. This, as I mentioned, with long-lasting and predictable long-term reforms which are being shown, can create a game changer. The second one is to maintain an active trust-building exercise, which again you allow us by coming multiple to discuss with us, because we would like to discuss and work transparently with the government, as I mentioned, the Jugalbandi. The third would be if the government may consider setting up SEZs and coastal economic zones and manufacturing clusters for good logistics. I think the government itself has mentioned that wants to bring logistics costs down and take out the cost disenabling areas to make India more competitive. The fourth one, India is seen, and this is, I say it as an asset, India is seen more and more as a neutral destination in the changed geopolitical landscape that is fast emerging, and therefore can play a very important role for not only India, but also the globe, the vision that our Prime Minister has created for Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant, and therefore also allowing competition to come in from outside. I would end by making a request to Minister that from our side, we remain committed with India agenda as the first. Ma'am, if you see how many multinationals are today having huge amount of senior local management who not only are bridges to the companies, both globally headquartered as well as here, but also taking to heart to create India agenda as the first. I end by saying a small soft issue. Most multinationals spend a lot of time and money, not just on technology, but on social engagement. Our company, ourselves, have brought in an automated mask line and giving 40 lakh to 50 lakh masks free to COVID government warriors across India. With that, we look forward to your engaging talk and our commitment to an India agenda first. Thank you, Madam.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and honor now to invite our chief guest, Honorable Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji, the Honorable Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, to kindly address us, please.
Good evening. Soumitra Bhattacharjee, the chairman of the CII National Committee on MNCs. Old hand, old friend, synonymous with CII, the Director General Chandrajit Banerjee, and all invited participants, guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's always an invigorating exercise to engage with the CII, and I've been fortunate that since my commerce days 2014, it's an ongoing exercise, and each time I've had the advantage of taking quite a few doable inputs from the CII, and on which, with a certain satisfaction, I can claim at least 50% of the inputs had been acted upon, even if the rest 50% the CII would probably feel I could have worked on. I can lay claim for about 50% of all the suggestions which had come. And as a precursor to the opening up of the defense production activity, even as early as 2017, the CII held a meeting in the Defense Ministry to say there are so many Indian manufacturers who would want that advantage of being able to produce for India. Some of them were already producing and exporting from India. So that formation of the small industries group of defense manufacturers under the CII, I know was very actively enabled by Chandrajit Banerjee, and the entire CII team actually can claim that they had done the initial stages of opening up defense production in India. So to that extent, CII deserves to be appreciated, and I shall definitely put a word of praise for all the effort which had happened there. The small manufacturers benefited. We were able to give assurance that at least the armed forces will make sure that which is produced by the small manufacturers will, for the next 10 years, without doubt, be procured from them. Of course, from then till today, much water has flowed under the bridge on this matter of defense production. But just to say how CII's inputs have helped policy making, and continuously the engagement has been rewarding for me. So thank you very much, CII. And therefore today, I feel that this engagement that I'm having with the national MNCs of the CII will be equally purpose-serving for me and for you all to have found this yet another opportunity to be able to voice your issues and also seek government to do some more towards improving the MNC contribution to Indian economy. By people like us who are living through it now for the last 100 years, none of our generations or the ones before us saw a rapid change and a complete standstill kind of an environment for the economy. And post that, really trying to come to terms with how we unlock, how we get back to being where we were normally. So in that, I think each one of us are proving much beyond what we expected of our own selves. Today, industry has really gone through the phase of completely shutting down every activity. But even as we have understood that the shutting down happened, when the attempts to open up, and now, of course, opened up almost near 100%, have opened up after doing a lot of introspection. And I can say with confidence, due to the interactions that I've had with many Indian industry, that most of them are looking at resetting the way in which they have been doing business all these years. So now, not just the MNCs, not just the Indian INC, the Indian Inc., but also the entire economy, big, small, medium, are all clearly facing a reset exercise. And that reset is only being strengthened by the government's Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat, again, is not something to close India down to be, so self-sufficient only from its own and its own materials and its own skills, but clearly saying it's time for us to look at this. Kept with it, but not actually used optimally. So Atmanirbhar, the call for Atmanirbhar is more to say, utilize our strength optimally, make sure our skills are able to calibrate and be of use, and make sure that India stands up on its strengths rather than be intimidated by the challenges. So Prime Minister Modi has not wasted this challenging time to convert it to an opportunity to say, let us see what we can best do with our strengths, not to stop the imports, not to keep India away from international trade, not to reject India's role in global trading community, not to reject India's role in the Indian manufacturing story, which actually should be, like the way you have said very clearly, that India should become a major investment hotspot. And for that, we have to make sure that we get everything right. And I'm glad that you've heard the Secretary, Department of Policy and Internal Trade telling you an effective unified single window will be made available so that access to regulators, policymakers, and facilitators are all available at one point from wherever you are, be able to access it digitally and so on. So even as this reset is happening in the economy, we are making sure that the pandemic does not affect viable units, does not affect those who have other and with the Reserve Bank of India to facilitate where liquidity is needed to be given the liquidity, where regulatory forbearance is required, forbearance is extended, just to make sure that those units which just need that little hand-holding will get it, so that once the lockdown is completely away, even now it's away, but even with the little containment zones here and there, once the coronavirus affected units are going to come out, they will come out in their full strength. So we have been engaging with all sectors to make sure that we talk to them and extend the facilities that they so need. But from an MNC perspective, if we were to look at Indian economy and where the emphasis is going to be in the coming budget, in the coming days and in the policy making, I would start with the fact that the Prime Minister himself has been engaging with the global investor community and talking to them about what exactly he looks at for India. How does he view India in this changing environment? To talk to them all who came from different continents, although virtually, of course, who came from different continents and spoke to the Prime Minister about what is it that they are seeing in India? What is it that they're expecting of India? And after the engagement too, he has been meeting with them one-on-one, virtually again, but one-on-one, talking to them about their concerns and how best they would expect India to do things in the policy space. As it is, you are aware that since 2019, after this government came again, post the 2019 elections, we have been taking absolutely strong reform-related measures. The reduction in corporate tax in September 2019 to be the lowest in the, as much as possible, compare it with many developed economies or emerging economies. 15% and with nothing else added to it. Taxation, corporate rate being 15%, the lowest I would think anywhere in the world. And also for the existing companies, saying that they can come down to the level of 22%. And if production for the new units commence post October 2019 till March 2023, clearly showing that our intent is to show immediate benefit for the MNCs and any large companies or small companies which would want to open shop and start producing. Opening up newer areas, space being one of them. I'm not sure anywhere else in an emerging economy. Of course, some of the advanced economies depend on private parties for operating their space activities. But in India-like economy, where India's space achievements are no mean achievements, for them to have also announced saying we welcome private partners to be in the area of space and to be able to use all the resources which the Indian Space Research Organization has, is a major step forward and a progressive one at that, a liberal one at that. And I would think the MNCs would definitely be interested in seeing what opportunities lie there. Even as I said about corporate tax, I think it's worth recalling that in this budget, February 2020 budget, which effectively was only 2 or 3 weeks before the corona pandemic's full force was seized by all of us. In that budget, we very clearly announced that for sovereign funds, we shall give tax concessions. Post that announcement, in spite of the corona pandemic, where globally we saw most countries going locked down, we have had interest being expressed by several sovereign funds. The National Infrastructure Investment Fund, NIIF, has been actively engaging with them through the lockdown to see how best we can facilitate them in getting the benefits of the tax concessions that are given with the pipeline that we announced, National Infrastructure Pipeline that we announced. The sovereign funds want to now tie up with many of the projects which have been announced in the pipeline, and they're taking up. And I understand the last 1 month, we've had at least 2 new sovereign funds coming in and saying, can we also benefit from the tax concessions given? Now, going back to the areas where government has opened up, I was speaking about the space, also the nuclear energy area is also now opened up. And even there, I would think there are opportunities. But why would I want to talk about only the nuclear energy? In renewable energy space, India has made leaps and bounds progress. And even only a couple of days ago, when the Prime Minister was talking in the G20 summit, the data on how India has complied with its commitments given in Paris COP21 in meeting all the requirements have been proven. Our 2035 commitments, which had to be milestoned from the time the COP21 happened, 2020, we've already exceeded the commitments which were expected of us. So government is very serious about its climate-related commitments, and even being serious on the point of carbon emission. We have simultaneously made sure that renewable energy gets its maximum investment. We have given all kinds of priorities for states to engage with the producers of solar and wind energy. As a result, we are able to meet the targets which we've set for ourselves in a global platform like the COP21. Defense production, of course, is an area on which I spoke a minute ago. We have opened up not just for the small and medium units which produce in India, where the Indian Armed Forces are a captive buyer. We have listed out those those items which are manufactured by the MSMEs, and said those will definitely be listed out in the list. But that does not exclude, of course, manufacturing of big ticket items for defense, for which Indian manufacturers are welcome to join hands with foreign MNCs, or foreign MNCs can come and set up business here, and meeting the standards of the Indian Armed Forces can certainly supply to them and also export from here. Now, you already are aware that we had much before, around the budget time, February 2020, had given concessions or production linked based incentives for the manufacturing of medical equipments, for pharmaceuticals. I heard SEZs and coastal zones to be created as a request and suggestion for the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals and for the manufacturing of medical equipments. In 6 states, dedicated areas have been designed. There are special economic zones for manufacturing of medical equipments and for production of APIs. India, once upon a time, was a lead manufacturer of active pharmaceutical ingredients. We lost that advantage, but today we have given this facility of specialized manufacturing zones for the production of key ingredients, as they call, starting KSIs, key starting ingredients, and also active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs. So for the pharma sector and for the medical equipment manufacturing, 6 will be provided straight away without much questions being asked. The effective unified single window actually already, in a way, exists for these pharma specialized zones for the medical equipments as well. I would think similar kind of approach is being taken for agri-processed products also by many states, because India is now rich and clearly becoming the agri basket for the whole world. The raw materials are available. Indian farmers are doing splendid job, much against all odds, in producing the necessary quantities of horticulture products and also vegetables, fruits and grains. Also the healthy coarse grains are also being grown. And therefore the processes which are required for preserving, storing, and also giving them a longer shelf life and giving value addition is also getting a lot of traction among particularly the startups who are looking at innovative ways of serving this area of activity. More importantly, in using digital technology, artificial intelligence, and also making sure fintech gains a lot. India has got branded products now in terms of financial payments through digital mode. So you have the UPI, Unified Payment Portal initiative of India interface, UPI, Unified Payment Interface. For technology developers, this is an area in which periodically upgrading and the technology to be brought in further with greater nuance and calibration is a growing area in which a lot of tech-based companies are also doing much better. One area in which I'll go back to talking about taxation, as I'm talking about fintech, as I'm talking about artificial intelligence, as I'm talking about technology-driven systems. Prime Minister normally speaks, when I say Atmanirbhar, I'm not excluding India from the globe. We have to improve systems. And here am I giving an example for what is improving systems or strengthening systems or becoming self-reliant in systems is. Fintech has grown so much purely because we use data to benefit technology and technology in turn to benefit banking systems. Taxation authorities also today have
my side is to give you.
Can I continue?
Please, madam, please, madam, sorry for there was some disruption, it seems. Sorry, madam,
Okay.
please.
All right. Can I continue?
Yes, please, madam. Yes, please. Yes, please, madam.
So taxation also today has benefited from technology. And that is why we took a very bold step after doing a pilot program of bringing in faceless assessment of tax. It was for the direct taxation first. Gradually, we shall also move towards using faceless technology for indirect taxation as well. Faceless technology, faceless assessment has definitely removed the element of discretion, the fear that there's a lot of uncertainty and personal element of interaction comes into assessments have all now been removed. Faceless assessment will clearly leave you at a stage where you will just have to file your returns, and if there are queries, it will come through email and you're going to be answering through email. There shall not be unwanted visitations at home. Unwanted visitors will be completely avoided. Now, faceless is also in appeals. So even if your assessment is not acceptable to the tax authorities, appeals are also going to happen through technology. And therefore, when I say India has had a brand in terms of creation of a brand in terms of payment facilitations, I would be happy to say even in reducing the taxation related compliance issues, we have used technologies and made sure that faceless assessment, faceless appeal will be the only way in which tax assessees will be, engaging with the authorities. So there shall not be an element of discretion. Everything would go as per formula, and the ease of compliance is kept in our mind. The momentum of reform continues even during the pandemic. We shall keep doing that. Earlier in the first tenure of Prime Minister Modi, you saw major steps being taken in terms of direct benefit transfer using technology. You saw GST being brought in. You also saw the IBC, which is of great help for the companies, and therefore gracefully you come in and do successful business. In case you want to wind up, there is also a very graceful way of getting out, and that is your IBC. We are strengthening the NCLT and the NCLAT, through which the company law related tribunal will function far more efficiently. Commercial courts are being set up. And therefore, I would want to tell you, even at a time of the COVID, the pandemic, Prime Minister has not lost an opportunity to take deep reforms, to undertake those kind of reforms which have not found the light of the day over the decades. The momentum for reform shall continue. Several more active reform-related steps are being taken up. Financial sector is being professionalized. Disinvestment agenda continues. We shall go with greater momentum in getting privatization, that which has been cleared by the cabinet, to go forward. So with these words, I think as an opening statement towards addressing the CII's national MNCs in your conference in the year 2020, even though it's virtual, I think we are able to convey to each other your expectation and my kind of a performance related, say, a report, and post which, of course, our engagement shall continue. We are getting closer to the budget of 21-22. I invite all of you to share your thoughts individually or through the CII, how you expect to see the Indian economy to grow. What are your suggestions to make it a lot more vibrant? I would be all ears to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you very much again for your very reassuring and a very visionary speech, covering really a wide range of subjects and issues. And you, Honorable Minister, we see the economy always in a very safe hands, and every time that you have addressed the industry, you have given us confidence, and you have always given always spoken from your heart and given some of the best some responses, and very, very proactively addressed many issues that come to the industry's mind. And thank you, Madam, for all the graciousness of yours in partnering with the industry truly, and so nicely with the CII. We have also seen immediate attention given by you to any valid request that has been put up by the industry, and your speed of response is something that sometimes we wonder how to cope up with, and you have always been extremely understanding of all issues of the industry, and today's address is so much reassuring for all our members. Madam, as you have very, very kindly addressed and accepted, we will take a few questions from some of our member companies from the MNC group who are present here. And with your permission, I just start with Zareen Daruwala. Zareen, the CEO of Stanford. Zareen.
Ma'am, one suggestion, the India Exim Bank has restrictions on its balance sheet and credit underwriting policies. So if we look at larger exams, if we look at Korea Exim or Canada, India Exim can only do 10 times its net own funds. Korea Exim does 30 times the net own funds. Canada's EBC 15 times. China, of course, is an extreme. But the suggestion was that India Exim should be allowed to leverage at least 15-20 times its net own funds. This actually puts a constraint because India Exim is not able to support exporters in certain emerging economies.
Sure, I take your point.
Thank you.
We should work towards it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Banerjee, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, I was calling Akshay, but Akshay, president of Honeywell. Sorry, Akshay.
Yeah, no problem. Good evening, Madam Finance Minister. Thank you for Prime Minister Modi's leadership and your leadership in driving the growth and development of India. As you know, multinationals have played a very critical role in driving this growth over the last 100 years, and we are committed to supporting the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of making India an intrinsic part of the global supply chain. Madam, it will be immensely helpful if multinationals could get more time to implement the objectives of public procurement order in our sourcing and supply chain ecosystem. As you know, these are very complex ecosystems that we have, and any additional time for us would help us put our investments into India that in a manner that is not very disruptive. So I would like to hear your perspective on the implementation of PPO, the enhanced local content, especially for global multinationals who have a very large footprint in India already.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to say much in terms of specific discussions which are going on periodically on the local content requirement. The public procurement order was reviewed in the initial stages of the lockdown, more from the point of view of neighboring nations and bordering countries and so on. But on the local content requirement, I need to come back to you because I don't think I instantly do have anything to say. But I know it is a matter of concern for industry. Any ups and downs in the requirement, the local content requirement, really throws out of window every planning that you do in your strategies, marketing and production strategies. So whatever be it, it has to be steady. Something which I'm sure the industry is constantly talking about. I may have to come back to you on that. I don't think I have anything specific to say beyond this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, madam. The next is Kamaljeet Jawa, the MD and CEO of Daikin. Kamaljeet, yeah, you can see you. Go ahead.
Yeah, dear Honorable Finance Minister, I represent air conditioning and refrigeration sector, and I'd like to thank you for taking such big and bold steps for economic and structural reforms with a view to make India self-reliant on manufacturing destination. Ma'am, MNC committee member, we are committed and confident of the success of these initiatives. The recent announcements of PLI and PMP will undoubtedly bring about a deeper strategic implication to the Indian business landscape. I can very confidently say that many multinationals, including many Japanese organizations like Daikin, Pana, Sony, Hitachi, Mitsubishi, are watching these reforms. And I'm on Indo-Japan boards, and we have seen this, that the policy changes closely with view to invest in India with a long-term view, given the following benefit India offers. It's a high revenue potential. BCG has also forecasted this through FICCI, that this industry to grow to 1 lakh crore revenue in next 5 years' time with these incentives. Huge employment generation as air conditioning and refrigeration manufacturing is highly labor-intensive industry. This also enables huge opportunity for after-sales service business and revenue as well. Big boost to exports also. This will bring, thus helping the balance of the trade for Indian economy. For a sunrise sector, these reforms mirror a huge confidence for the MNCs looking at India to create value for nation and its citizens. Madam, our requests are that implementation of regulations for technology, product quality, energy efficiency, and of similar nature reform should be in line with international practices with reasonable time span in moving to the next level of standards so that industry gets adequate time for product development and testing. Recommendations for lowering the rate of GST, previously excise duty, to 18% for higher energy efficiency 5-star rated air conditioners. These have been sympathetically considered by the successive authorities like Bureau of Energy Efficiency, NITI Aayog, DPIT, and Power Ministry. Lowering of GST will promote higher sale of energy efficient air conditioners 5 stars and above, which will encourage manufacturers to further reduce prices for consumers, and it will also reduce investment required on installed capacity for power generation, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Banerjee, you're muted.
Yeah. Sorry. R.S. Subramaniam, next Managing Director and Board Member of DHL Express. Subramaniam.
Yeah. Honorable Finance Minister and my MNC colleagues and CII friends. Thanks for the opportunity. I think one of the things which we've always felt that the well-invested, well-entrenched, and can grow and invest more businesses need to be heard. And it's a great panel, Madam. It's a great effort, and I'm happy that you gave us time. I represent DHL Express, which is part of the Deutsche Post DHL group, as you may know. And in India, we have 4 large businesses. Just one line to set the context. I represent DHL Express. We do invest in airside facilities and aviation and global network we run. Blue Dart Express is a group company. We run only domestic cargo aviation company and an express network we run in the country. DHL Global Forwarding does traditional freight forwarding, and DHL Supply Chain has close to 8 to 9 million square feet of warehouse infrastructure across the country. We employ almost 40,000 plus directly and indirect employment in the country. In time, we continue to invest even during the COVID time in terms of infrastructure, technology, and people. We're really appreciative of the excellent work done by this government in these very, very difficult times, Madam, especially in the case of improvement in systems and regulations, which you also touched upon when you spoke today. In that spirit, I would like to place 2 points today as suggestions and requests from you for which some attention will help us significantly improve ease of doing business. One is an easy win, I feel, which is that in the withholding tax and TDS regime, we usually every year wait for a few months to get an approval of the withholding tax percentage, and post which we go around collecting TDS certificates from customers whom we bill. This is for us like an express company like us. We have million transactions in a month, and we collect thousands of TDS, and it's a humongous reconciliation task. This can be simplified significantly. We can get long-term exemption, let's say a 5-year exemption from collecting TDS, but based on annual advance payment we are willing to make. Then it's a clean slate. The government is collecting tax in advance, and we are having the simplification which we really need. And this will, I think, be appreciated by a large number of industry players here. And we will possibly benefit from the messy reconciliation which you are doing. This is one request. Second, ma'am, we are a very well-entrenched invested MNC. Our sector has several such MNCs of investors. We operate based on the courier license which we get from the customs department. This can be suspended for even the smallest of the procedural lapses, which eventually, after weeks and months sometimes of investigation, do not even attract a penalty. What happened is the suspension has disrupted the entire international infrastructure of the network, puts us at tremendous disadvantage, and puts our customers, a lot of our MNCs who are on the call here today, are also gone into complete turmoil. I think we should move to a regime of perpetual licensing and a fine and penalty mechanism which is commensurate to the lapse. And I think these are all well invested multinationals at play. We bring the best business practices to the country, absolutely state of the art technology we bring. And I think we are committed to the compliance requirements of the government, and there are some residual simplification possible here. The good news I can say, and while I say this request, I should say this, that CBIC has this on the table and they are looking at it. But a oversight from you will ensure that this moves at the speed at which these changes should. So these are the 2 points I want to place today, madam. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Highlighting of compliance related matters. I'll have a look into it.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I request two others who have requested for questions to be very quick. We have a time frame of closing this session. Nitin Chalke, the Managing Director of Eaton Technologies, followed by Kamal Bali, the President and Managing Director of Volvo. Nitin, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam, for your time today. And more importantly, the reforms. All the reforms are really welcome, and we believe they are steps in the right direction. As we talk to our parent company, carry that to them and compete capital representatives. From that perspective, as we discussed with our parent companies, the consistency and predictability of policies is very important for us, because that gives the MNCs an assurance that the country will stay on course. And we believe the steps we are taking are certainly steps in the right direction, and we should continue on that path. My comment today is to highlight the importance of predictability and consistency. Though the stable government and the political will of the government is a big assurance in itself and gives us a lot of confidence. But I'd like to hear from you. I wanted to emphasize this consistency and predictability. And if you have any observations or any recommendations on what our message to our parent companies would be, that would be welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the last, Kamal Bali, President and Managing Director of Volvo. Kamal.
Thank you, Chandrajit. Thank you very much, ma'am, for very cogent and encouraging comments. On behalf of 160 Swedish companies in India, I would like to compliment the government and your ministry in particular for the stupendous initiatives for ushering in economic and governance-related reforms that we have seen in the last few years, especially in the last 6 to 7 months. It is clearly, we feel it is India's long-awaited manufacturing movement which is being created now. There is always an aspiration to ask for more to make India the #1 investment destination. So, ma'am, I will just put forth very, very quickly 2 points. One is fast-tracking bilateral advanced pricing agreements, ma'am. And this is one thing which is very critical, and this can actually completely stop any tax dispute, direct tax disputes for a long period of time. And if this can be fast-tracked, it will be very good. Currently, APAs are taking 5 years completion, so which defeats the purpose. If this can be done, a lot of contingent liabilities on the books of multinational companies can be removed. That is one. The second one was, ma'am, regarding dispute resolution for tax litigation. Ma'am, there are right now more than 9 lakh crores of disputed tax under direct taxes which are under litigation. About 5 lakh cases there. So our suggestion is, if we can have some mediation methods prevailing in major economies, this can be considered, because if we can speedily dispose of these pending cases at tribunals, CSTAT will be very helpful to get certainty on tax matters for investors, ma'am. Ma'am, if we can do these couple of things, it will be icing on the cake on what you have been doing. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. Advanced pricing agreements can be expedited. Otherwise, it defeats the very purpose. And 5 years is definitely not acceptable, because it's rather too long rather than being advanced. So I take that point. And also on the dispute resolution, I think we have made our intent clear. That is why we came up with the two schemes. One was the Vishwas scheme and then the Vivad Se Vishwas, so that at least some of the disputes which have been festering for a very long time could be settled. But I understand we need to have a robust mechanism through which, as we go along, disputes can also be kept resolved, rather than wait for that one day when we announce a scheme and say, come back with all the pending litigations, we'll take it up. There should be simultaneous tracking of disputes and, if possible, prevent them from becoming disputes, or if they are indeed disputes, settle them at the earliest through a running real-time kind of a mechanism. I fully take that point. We shall definitely see what we can do. And as regards manufacturing and investment, India becoming an investment destination, many of these compliance issues are the ones which worry the minds of investors. We need to address them. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, madam, for your patience, for always responding with clarity and with so much, so much of clarity, so much of warmth, and so much always immediately. So thank you very much for listening to everyone. I'll request Shomitra to now propose a vote of thanks and close the session, please.
Thank you very much, madam. On behalf of the MNC committee, I would just like to assure you again that we have made the India agenda our agenda first. As I mentioned, many and most of us are here for many, many years. There are three things I would like to share with you. One, you've already seen the Ernst & Young report, which through CII we will send to your office. Second, we are going to do a Deloitte report of interviews from partners from Deloitte with CEOs, which will give you again a feel of what CEOs feel and how we can do the Jugalbandi stronger. And the third, we will make by the year end of fiscal 20/21 a compendium of all that MNCs bring on the table. And that also we will share with you. I would like to end as a part of, representative of the auto industry, one small part which you have supported tremendously, but perhaps the ink needs to dry, the scrappage policy. The auto industry is already doing relatively far better. And if you bring that, ma'am, I can tell you we will take out a lot of old vehicles and it will be a further boost to the industry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you, Chandrajit.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues, and thank you all participants. Thank you, Marut. Colleagues, from all of us, a big thank you to CII, not just to Chandrajit, to Marut, but the entire team with Marut, who has made this conference into an extremely engaging and active conference. I'm sure you will thumb the desk or give also a big clap on behalf of everyone.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. It was your leadership, and thanks to everybody's participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good one.